Movies would like you to believe that Roman warfare was a precisely organized spectacle. But the reality was nothing like that. No cheering, no glory, just silence, exhaustion, and orders. What really happened in a Roman battle didn't start with a charge, it started the day before. Roman soldiers spent their final day before battle doing the least glamorous job in the ancient world: digging. Thousands of men with shovels transformed into a massive construction crew, building temporary fortifications around their camp. These weren't simple holes either. Roman engineers demanded ditches deep enough to stop charging horses and wide enough to make enemy infantry think twice. Behind these trenches, soldiers piled dirt into walls topped with sharpened wooden stakes. Every campsite became a miniature fortress with gates and watchtowers. The Romans basically treated every overnight stop like they were expecting uninvited guests with very bad intentions. This backbreaking labor took hours but kept armies alive when enemies attacked at dawn. Equipment inspection followed, with centurions examining every piece of armor and weapon like strict teachers checking homework. Cracked helmet straps, dull sword edges, and worn sandals all earned punishments. Roman quality control made modern safety inspectors look casual about their jobs. Food preparation consumed more precious time. Soldiers ground wheat into flour, mixed water with dried meat, and prepared their daily ration of posca, wine mixed with vinegar that tasted exactly as bad as it sounds. Nobody complained because complaining about army food was apparently invented much later. Officers organized the legion into 3 main lines and assigned specific positions to each unit. Every soldier learned exactly where to stand and which signals to watch during combat. Roman battle planning involved more coordination than organizing a school dance, except showing up in the wrong place had significantly more permanent consequences. Weapon maintenance filled the remaining daylight hours. Soldiers sharpened gladii until they could split hairs, adjusted leather armor straps, and reinforced shields with fresh rawhide. When darkness arrived, they slept on hard ground using shields as pillows and cloaks as blankets. Religious rituals provided comfort to worried minds. Soldiers made offerings to household gods and prayed to Mars, promising gifts in exchange for survival. The atmosphere remained businesslike rather than celebratory, with officers delivering final orders and maintaining discipline among anxious troops. Dawn brought horn calls and controlled chaos as thousands prepared for battle. The Roman army arranged itself in 3 proven lines: young hastati in front, experienced principes in middle, veteran triarii in rear. Each soldier occupied exactly 3 feet of space, close enough to lock shields, but far enough to swing weapons without hitting neighbors. Bronze helmets protected heads, but created serious vision problems. Most soldiers could only see straight ahead, with side vision blocked by metal cheek guards. Sounds became muffled, making it nearly impossible to hear orders beyond their immediate area. The Romans had apparently figured out the mathematics of organized violence, which probably wasn't anyone's favorite homework assignment. Communication relied on horn calls, flag signals, and mounted messengers. Different blasts meant advance, halt, turn, or retreat. Only officers understood all signals, leaving ordinary soldiers dependent on training and the men beside them. The waiting stretched for hours while commanders studied terrain and enemy movements. Soldiers baked under the sun in heavy armor, sweat soaking their tunics. Standing motionless in metal clothing probably felt worse than waiting in the longest line at the most boring government office ever invented. Meanwhile, the ground trembled with enemy war drums and cavalry thunder. These sounds traveled through earth before reaching ears, reminding every soldier that death was marching toward them. Fear affected men differently. Some stood still, others fidgeted constantly. A few became physically sick. Centurions walked the lines constantly, maintaining discipline and preventing panic. They corrected posture, adjusted spacing, and whispered encouragement or threats. Roman military justice apparently believed that fear of your own officers was the best cure for fear of the enemy. The fundamental rule was simple: nobody moved unless ordered. This had been beaten into every soldier during training that made modern boot camp look like vacation. As enemy forces drew closer, quiet conversations faded into grim silence of men preparing to kill or be killed. Roman horns blasted the advance signal, and thousands of feet moved forward in perfect unison. This wasn't the wild movie charge. Legions advanced at steady walking pace, maintaining tight formation. Officers shouted commands to keep lines straight and prevent gaps. Walking toward people who want to kill you apparently requires special courage not taught in regular PE classes. At 15 to 30 meters from enemies, every soldier hurled heavy javelins simultaneously. Thousands of iron-tipped spears created deadly rain, crashing into enemy shields and bodies. The javelin was engineered for psychological warfare, its soft iron point bent on impact, making shields useless. Roman weapons designers had created the ancient equivalent of really annoying technology that breaks at exactly the wrong moment. After throwing javelins, soldiers drew gladii, short swords perfect for close combat. The collision between forces created chaos no training could prepare anyone for. Romans slammed into enemies shield first, using body weight to knock opponents off balance. This was less like sword fighting and more like the world's most violent contact sport, except everyone carried sharp metal objects. Combat consisted of shield bashing and quick stabs with the gladius. There was no room for elaborate swordplay. Soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, protecting neighbors while looking for opportunities to kill enemies. The Roman system worked on mutual support, where breaking the chain could be fatal. Roman doctrine included rotation systems, keeping fresh fighters forward. Exhausted soldiers stepped back while second ranks took their places. The Romans had invented shift work for warfare, probably making battles the only job where people looked forward to break time. Officers moved along battle lines, maintaining spacing and replacing fallen soldiers. Combat noise made communication impossible. Metal clashing, men screaming, officers shouting created a deafening roar. Soldiers relied on training and instincts, following movements around them when chaos threatened to destroy everything. Even disciplined Roman legions could find themselves in serious trouble when plans went wrong. A single weak point could trigger catastrophic chain reactions, destroying entire armies within minutes. Enemy breakthrough at any point could attack from the side, turning organized combat into chaotic slaughter. When formations collapsed, psychological effects spread faster than physical breaches. Soldiers fighting confidently suddenly found enemies attacking from unexpected directions. Fear in battle traveled faster than bad news in small towns and was usually just as destructive to everyone involved. Battlefields became treacherous obstacle courses. Dead and wounded men created tripping hazards, blood made surfaces slippery, and uneven terrain became deadly when men fought for their lives. Communication broke down completely as horn calls became inaudible amid chaos. Trying to give commands during battle collapse was like attempting conversation during thunderstorms, theoretically possible but practically useless. Roman soldiers attempting retreat discovered escape wasn't simple. Their own rear ranks blocked routes, following orders regardless of what happened in front. Natural obstacles could trap fleeing men against impassable terrain. Battle confusion led to tragic mistakes where soldiers from different units attacked each other, mistaking friends for foes. Well-trained units had disaster procedures, but executing plans required exceptional leadership under extreme pressure. Some cohorts formed defensive squares or fell back to secondary positions. However, tactical recoveries demanded split-second decisions from officers probably just as confused as their men. Highest casualties occurred during collapse rather than initial fighting. Fleeing soldiers made easy targets for enemy cavalry who could ride down infantry safely. Getting killed while running away was probably the most frustrating way to die in ancient warfare, like losing games just before reaching finish lines. Cavalry played crucial roles during chaos phases. Roman horsemen might charge enemy flanks, while enemy cavalry could turn retreats into massacres. The psychological trauma from experiencing collapse stayed with survivors forever, leaving mental scars ancient medicine couldn't treat or understand. Silence following battles was almost as unsettling as preceding noise. Survivors faced sorting through thousands of bodies scattered across battlefields covering square miles. First priority involved identifying Roman versus enemy corpses, difficult because blood and mud had obscured distinguishing features. Roman soldiers immediately collected valuable items from dead enemies. This was standard practice, and often the only way common soldiers profited from dangerous service. Dead men had no use for money while living soldiers desperately needed it, so battlefield economics sorted itself out efficiently. Army medics moved across battlefields with leather bags of bandages, wine, and iron tools. They used vinegar as antiseptic and heated metal to stop bleeding. Identifying Roman dead created heartbreaking scenes as soldiers searched for missing comrades using personal items and distinctive scars. Burial arrangements reflected practical realities. Enemy corpses went into large pits dug by prisoners, while Roman dead received slightly better treatment when time allowed. Enemy prisoners presented opportunities and problems. Healthy captives could be sold as slaves, while wounded ones were often executed. Equipment redistribution followed a strict hierarchy. Officers received valuable items, while ordinary soldiers settled for scraps. Roman bureaucracy extended even to battlefields because nothing said military efficiency like paperwork completed while standing ankle-deep in blood. Payment was notoriously slow and unreliable. Soldiers often waited months for promised rewards, and some never received full payment when commanders kept larger portions. Medical discharge was available for disabled soldiers, but the process was complicated and unfair. Roman military benefits apparently worked about as well as you'd expect from ancient government programs, which is to say, not very well at all. The psychological aftermath affected survivors in ways Roman society barely acknowledged. Veterans experienced nightmares, tremors, and violent outbursts. Ancient medicine had no understanding of mental trauma, so soldiers were expected to simply get over experiences and prepare for the next campaign. Roman armies resumed marching within 24 hours when possible, leaving only burial details behind. This prevented enemy reinforcements, avoided disease around corpses, and maintained campaign momentum. Roman military scheduling apparently didn't include time for proper grief counseling or recovery periods. Victory spoils followed ancient customs heavily favoring rank. Generals claimed largest shares while ordinary soldiers divided scraps. Successful campaigns could result in land grants, allowing veterans to establish farms in conquered territories. However, payment systems were infamous for delays and complications. Disabled veterans faced uncertain futures depending on luck and connections. The fortunate received pensions for modest retirements, while many discovered military service counted for little in civilian society. Roman society expected soldiers to be tough and emotionless, but apparently trauma didn't read the philosophical manuals about proper masculine behavior. Many veterans found careers utilizing military skills, joining urban police, becoming bodyguards, or establishing gladiator schools. Official reports transformed bloody battles into glorious victories, enhancing generals' reputations while barely mentioning ordinary soldier sacrifices. Veterans rarely received recognition for psychological trauma or recovery time. Men who witnessed friends killed or survived terrifying defeats were expected to move on and prepare for next campaigns. Most professional legions spent years fighting endless conflicts, with some serving decades. Roman military careers were basically extended combat tours with occasional breaks for more combat, which explains why retirement was such an appealing concept among experienced soldiers. The harsh realities created warrior cultures valuing discipline and courage, but often made it difficult for men to admit weakness or successfully transition to peaceful civilian life after years of organized violence.